morning from the gravesite of Charlie Meadows, or Arizona Charlie Meadows as he went by. Hey, it's Janelle Maloney, the Hottie Historian, and I'm in Yuma today at the Desert Lawn Memorial Cemetery. And pretty soon we're going to pop over to the old Yuma Cemetery, which is just across this little fence to my side, because there's stories to be had in both. Charlie Meadows established the first rodeo that we had in Arizona Territory, and that was in Payson. That rodeo has been going over 100 years and going strong, so it's the longest continuously running rodeo that we have in our state's history. Charlie also was one of those Klondike gold rushers, and he went up to Alaska and into Yukon, Canada, and was looking for the magical stone. While he was in the Yukon Valley, he established and built a theater up there, and that is where Klondike Kate, which is not her real name, but that's where Klondike Kate ended up dancing. Here in Yuma, Charlie is known for his contributions to the canal industry, and the canal runs almost parallel to the Colorado River. So he was definitely a part of our city's infrastructure and economic development when he wasn't being a Wild West showman. Charlie is known for his participation in Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West shows, and that toured through not just the US but even across the world. But before that, he was with two other Wild West show companies, or we could think of them now as a traveling circus, but just with a Wild West theme. After he was done working with Buffalo Bills, he actually started his own Wild West show and traveled more locally in the Southwest. And so, but when he was doing his shows, he employed his brothers to participate as trick riders, trick shooters. Jim Meadows, or James Meadows, who was the Ostrich rancher that I'm interested in this weekend, he was, his special contribution was to wrangle the bulls. And so whenever those boys could get together and put their crazy thoughts together, they would have a good time demonstrating what it was like in the old Wild West, even though it was still in the early 1900s and it wasn't that old or that long ago. Charlie's little brothers, Jacob, or JD, and his other brother, Mobley, or Kid Mobley as he was called in the Wild West shows, were both lawmen on either side of the border of Arizona and California. So one was a lawman in Yuma County and the other in Imperial County, and the two of them used to partner up to find the murderers and the diamond thieves, and they could go and canvass the Yuma desert. They knew that like the back of their hands. They knew where every single watering hole was, and there was no one who got away when the Meadows brothers were on their tracks. It's not buddy cop stories, brother cop stories. I just love that. A few years before Jim became an ostrich rancher, in 1902, he and his brother Arizona Charlie and Jacob, or JD, they went on a expedition to the Isle of Tiburon down in Mexico. They took a yacht from the Colorado River here in Yuma all the way down to the Isle of Tiburon, and they had gone with the intent of finding gold and perhaps creating a cattle ranching business there for Charlie and a Mexican consul who were partnering over that. They went, and one of the things that they were trying to figure out was, how do we deal with the indigenous people that lived there? And so the Mexican consul, General Andrade, was sort of like, well, we just sort of get rid of them. We push them off. We defeat them in battle. We overtake them. And so part of when the boys were there was to scope out how they would, with force, evict the Seri Indians that were on that island. The local government was not about to let that happen. That was a little absurd. And so there were no arrangements being made to actually move forward with the plan for them to do that takeover. Thank God. That's just super weird. Anyway, so they came back to California with stories of hidden gold, lost gold, treasures of gold, or troves of gold on the island, and cannibals. And because they painted those Syrian Indians as cannibals, then it was like a huge deterrent of like, oh, we can't go there because we'll die, or people go there and they never come back. And you know, I don't know, sometimes guys go off on expeditions or missions and they kind of have to have some kind of elaborate story to explain why that mission was unsuccessful. He is credited with threatening that after all these long years and choosing very risky career options, showy risky career options, that he would only die if it snowed in Yuma, and it definitely did the day he died, which everyone just seems to get a kick out of. He's buried next to his daughter Marion, which I think is very sweet. He had a daughter by a woman in one of the shows that he was working on, and that mother wasn't that interested in trying to make this connection happen. And I don't think Charlie was either. I think this daughter was sort of just left to be, you know, your father will never acknowledge you. He'll never, you know, whatever. We're not going to be a burden. We're not actually married. It's not a thing. So this daughter was, I think, intended to be forgotten, move on. You don't have a dad, right? But later on in her life, she found Charlie, and at that point he was married to a different woman, and he was so glad to know his daughter Marion. He connected with her. He had so many things in common with her, and it reminded her of that original love that he had. And his second wife, or his wife, because the one wasn't married, was extremely jealous of Marion. So I think it's very interesting here to see not Charlie next to his wife, actually, but Charlie next to his daughter. Let's go check out some more graves while we're here.